What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Kaleb Davis, and today we have some breaking news. So, for the sake of time and availability, I'm going to be going solo today, talking about the breaking news around the NBA currently. I don't know if a lot of you guys have saw, but last night the Knicks and Wolves went through a blockbuster trade, and basically I'm just going to give you guys my thoughts on the trade, how it kind of impacts both teams moving forward, and yeah, just kind of touch on the trade a little bit and give you guys my thoughts. So before I get things started, I just want to say the NBA preseason is 6 days away, and I am just so excited. Basketball, especially specifically NBA basketball, is my favorite time of the year. So excited to start sharing with you guys. And this is kind of why I love the NBA. There's always some type of drama or chaos going on that you just don't see really replicated across other sports. And it's just always at the most unexpected times. Like we've had radio silence for weeks from the NBA, and then boom, a blockbuster trade. And last season around this time, we were going through the Damian Lillard Miami Heat saga, and then he randomly got traded to the Bucks. We saw that whole Drew Holiday ordeal go down. And it's just all I can say is I love it. Favorite time of the year. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with the trade. So the trade details: the Knicks received Karl-Anthony Towns, and there's still some information coming out. So the fine details of the trade could come out a little bit more. There might be some second round picks getting traded or more financial compensation. But as of right now, the Knicks will receive Karl-Anthony Towns. The Timberwolves receive Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo, and a 2025 top 13 protected first round pick via Detroit. And then, as a aside, the Hornets receive draft compensation and some salary just to make the trade work. And I just want to start off by saying, because a lot of people are upset about the Nova Knicks being broken up. And yes, it would have been a cool and fun story to see them run it back and to see things come to fruition. But we have to be realistic a bit. And I'm gonna start with a report came out earlier this morning from Bleacher Report that Donte didn't necessarily like his role being lessened as a result of the Mikal Bridges acquisition, and that's understandable. As I go through the video, I'm gonna touch on his stats and his postseason run last season, but he just came off a career year as a starting shooting guard for an Eastern Conference Finals team, and to be subject to the bench, which rightfully so, Mikal Bridges is a better player, and that is the right move. I understand his frustration a bit. I'm not sure if this move is hinting, well, this statement is kind of hinting at him starting for the Timberwolves. I don't see him starting out at point guard over Mike Conley, but hey, we never know. But definitely a great addition. But yeah, from the Knicks' perspective, I want to start off by saying Mitchell Robinson, their before the trade, he was their perceived starting center. He's going to be out for at least the first 2 months of the season because of an off-season ankle injury. Off-season ankle surgery that he just underwent. So the Knicks needed a center. They didn't have anyone to fill that hole right now. They had Precious Achua, and he's not really a guy that you want to start and give 28, 30 minutes to a night. And Karl-Anthony Towns gives you a real all-star, all-NBA caliber center. Last season, he averaged 21.8 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 3 assists. And he shot 50% from the field and 41.6% from three. So great numbers. He's a great stretch five. He's the self-proclaimed best shooting big man of all time. So you're bringing in a great addition at center. He struggled a little bit in the playoffs, so his stats went down a bit. He went down to 19.1 points per game, 9 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and he shot 46.6% from the field and 36.1% from three. Now, with Cat, I want to first start by touching on his injury history. He's typically pretty durable in his younger years, but over the past few seasons, specifically he hasn't played over 70 games, but one time in the past 5 seasons, and that was the 2021-2022 season. So durability is a bit of a question mark for Cat as you continue to move forward. But and I kind of think the Knicks need him to be healthy and be present for this to all work, because he isn't the only center on the roster, but he is obviously the most valuable, and they don't have a lot of replacements at the moment. I don't know if this is going to open up the window for more trades down the line. Maybe they're going to shore up their backup center spot. But I'm excited to see how this looks. I can't wait to see the pick and pop game with him and Jalen Brunson. I think that's going to be lethal. The spacing just works so well. And that starting lineup of, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Cat is just a seamless fit. Cat is a great rebounder. Since Rudy came along, he hasn't had to be the defensive presence that he kind of was when he came into the league. And he's not a great defender by any means, but he is a solid post defender. He can clean up the glass and he can kind of handle himself down there. He's a big guy. And I think Josh Hart is going to help like round out their starting five because you have all this offensive skill, and then he's kind of like a grit and get down to the mud dirty guy. Like he'll get you rebounds, he'll die for balls. He's playing defense. It rounds out that starting lineup so well, and that hasn't came out. Nothing's come out to say that will be the starting lineup, but if I had to say, that's what I would be going with. But yeah, I love the fit and I love the trade so far. And I didn't mention this at the start, but if I had an opinion, like if you were asking me, if you gave me truth serum, I would say the Knicks won this trade. I don't think it's by as large of a margin though as everyone is alluding to. I still think the Timberwolves are going to come out solid for the trade, and I'm going to get to them in a second. But back to the Knicks, I love the move, and it was out of left field. It was rumored a bit in the middle of last season. You heard Cat's name coming around as no one knew if that too big look would work with him next to Rudy. But I think his numbers kind of suffered last year because when you're playing next to Rudy Gobert, who is, don't get me wrong, he is a very, very, very good defensive player, but he provides very little on the offensive end. Like you don't really have to account for him on defense outside of his roles, and those are even a bit spotty because he doesn't have great hands. He doesn't have great touch. He's not good at making reads, so that's not really an action that you're looking for. And I think the Cat's biggest strength in the past was that he was a stretch five center, like a lights out shooter. And centers aren't accustomed typically. As the NBA we've been shifting, and centers have definitely become a lot more skilled, but usually centers it's not as natural for them to account for a shooting big. So that was his superpower that he had against a lot of bigs. And I think playing with this team is just going to open up his game so much. I wouldn't say he's really a Tom Thibodeau guy. Cat is not, well, I don't know him personally, but from reports and things that we hear, he's not the most, hard-nosed, grit kind of guy. But I don't think it'll be an issue moving forward. I think he'll fit right in there, and I think it's going to be a seamless fit. But yeah, moving on to the Timberwolves, I want to start with Julius Randle. So last season, in the regular season, he averaged 24 points with 9 rebounds, and he shot 42.7% from the field. And then he also shot 31.1% from 3-point range. And this is kind of what I want to start with him. For this trade to work, one, he has to be able to shoot. Like, he has to come back better. I'm hoping, it would be great if he could come back and shoot 40% from 3. But in all likelihood, that's not going to happen. But I think if he can bump it up to around 35, 36%, 37%, in that range, so people have to account for him, because the issue with the Timberwolves was their spacing. And that was one of the issues, was their spacing, and then they didn't have a lot of play finishers besides Ant. Because Mike Conley's a great shooter, but he's very reluctant to shoot the ball. He's more of a facilitator. He likes to get guys involved. Jaden McDaniels is not a great 3-point shooter, and Rudy Gobert, we know, is not a 3-point shooter at all. So I think the fit may be a bit clunky as they start to just get adjusted to playing with one another. And I'm not sure what other moves they're going to make to kind of remedy this issue. Because if Julius Randle comes out next season and he's still shooting 30% from 3 or 31% from 3, it's going to be even more clogged, because you're replacing one of the best shooters in the league with a below average shooter. So that's something to definitely look out for. And also, one thing I don't think people were taking into account that much is Cat's contract. The Wolves just couldn't afford to keep that core of Rudy Gobert, Cat, and Anthony Edwards with Jaden McDaniels all together. They couldn't afford it, and you'd be going into the second apron eventually. So they had to make a move to free up some money. So I understand it. I think there might have been, I don't know what the trade market was for Cat. I don't know if they were actively looking or if this deal was just brought to them and they were like, we can't turn this down. But there's definitely better fits out there, I would say, to pair alongside Anthony Edwards. And who knows, maybe Julius Randle gets flipped again. maybe they make another big move. I don't see them moving any of their core pieces. Like I don't think Jaden's going anywhere. I don't think Rudy's going anywhere. I don't think Anthony Edwards is going anywhere. But yeah, I'm just excited to see how they look moving forward. And then you can never go wrong with bringing in an all-star or all NBA player, because that's what Julius Randle is. And he's had his injury history. Excuse me. He has had injury issues in the past. Like these past few seasons, he's been very banged up. But it's usually towards the tail end of the season. Like coming in during the regular season, he's there, and then usually around the last few months of the season, he's just had these injuries that keep adding up. Like last season, he had the shoulder injury. The season before, I remember I was watching the game against the Heat. He had those ankle injuries that kind of plagued him coming into the playoffs, and it's hard coming into the postseason. One, if you can't even play, obviously that's a whole nother issue. But coming in off of an injury, you have to get your rhythm. You have to get back in shape. There's just more getting that feel back, getting that chemistry back with your team. Like yes, it's still there, but it takes time, and I think that's kind of been his issue in the past. And I think he's a really good player, and I'm excited to see how he looks next season, because he's definitely going to come in pissed off because he got moved. He kind of helped revitalize the Knicks into what they are now. So yeah, I'd be a little pissed off. Like they got rid of me. He was the odd man out, but it happens, and you just have to make the best of your next situation. And then I mentioned earlier Donte DiVincenzo. Last season, he averaged 15.5 points. He shot 40.1% from three on 8.7 attempts. So he's one of the best shooters in the league. He's a deadly catch and shoot guy. He can shoot off the move. He can create for himself at times. And he's just a great pickup all in all, in my opinion. In the playoffs, though, I said he went up a level. And I just kind of want to touch on this a bit. So in the postseason, as arguably the Knicks' second best player, especially after OG Anunoby went down, he averaged 17.8 points, shot 42.5% from three on 8.2 attempts. So this shows that the regular season wasn't just a fluke by any means, or, he can't succeed in the playoffs. No, he was still a lights out shooter, and that was with even more pressure as like defenses picked up and they had to accommodate for him as guys went down. So more props to him. And like I said, he didn't want to have his role kind of diminish, which you can't be mad at the guy. He just had a career year. And I know he probably feels some type of way about the whole Villanova Knicks situation. And yeah, it would have been a nice story to tell. But at the end of the day, they're in the league and you're trying to make the most of your situation right now. And I'm going back to the Knicks real quick, but I love that they realize that they have this window right now. They have Jalen Brunson, and I think he is capable of being the best player on a championship team. And they're trying to capitalize. That's what you should do. You should, when you have small windows like this, you should push all your chips to the table. And this could segue into a bunch of other teams who I'd love to talk about right now, but for the sake of time, I'm going to stay on topic. But yeah, with Donte DiVincenzo as well, he's a very durable player. Like I said, he finished the entire playoff run. And last season he played in 81 games. So definitely a guy that can be consistent. And I think he's going to be great next to Ant, because like I said, Mike Conley is a little timid at times. Like he's not going to jack up 8 threes like Donte will. Like you give him the ball, he will shoot it. And then you had Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and he's not a great shooter. He's not a bad player, but he's not a great shooter. So bringing in Donte as a replacement for that, or as a fill-in, is just going to open up things for Ant. But I still think they need to bring in shooting. They brought in the rookie point guard. I'm blanking on his name right now, but I think the Timberwolves are going to be right back in the mix next year. And I think the trade was pretty good, successful for both teams. But that is all I have for today. Let me know how you guys feel about the trade. I'm gonna leave a review in the comments. Let us know how you feel. But thank you all so much for tuning into the Peer Review Podcast today. Please make sure to share the podcast with your friends and family, as well as follow us on X at peerreview_pod and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with our latest episode releases. We also personally monitor all of our accounts and would love to hear your feedback. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Want us to cover different topics? Let us know in the comments. And thanks again. This is the Peer Review.